Welcome back, everybody, to Risk Takers and Trailblazers Women in Insurance Podcast, Part 2 with Janine. And we're going to jump right back into it. We're going to go through some examples of, Janine's journey on experiencing imposter syndrome and ways that she has tools, I guess, and things that you've worked through in order to handle those situations. We'll probably all share some deep experiences and examples of everything we've all felt, because everyone's all felt it. So we're going to jump right into it. So maybe, do we want to start, Janine? Tell us, I mean, you kind of covered some of this in your first, in the first part one, which I thought was super interesting. I want everybody to go back and listen to that story because I felt that as well. But yeah, these things come in at any point in time when you're taking a new position, or you're holding a presentation, or you've lost a deal, or I mean, then the list goes on and on and on of when you can feel that, the imposter syndrome creep in. And I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us a story or two.
For sure. I'm going to actually tell you, I had started talking about, when I was trained as a auto body appraisal. We called them appraisers back in the day. And so I did not have my journeyman, and I had gotten this role, as I said, my favorite road position, and I was going out, and so I'd been trained. I asked for all the training I could get, and so trained by appraisers in Regina, Saskatoon, and then by our appraisers in North Battleford. So I had all the tools I needed to do the job. I had been trained by the Mitchell folks as well, worked alongside some of the different body shops in North Battleford so that I could, I could speak the lingo, because of course we know walking in as a woman, so this would have been the first time I would have done that. It would have been about 16 years ago, 17 years ago. And I thought, okay, I'm going to these rural communities and I need to set myself up for success. And so walk into my first body shop to do the appraisals, and I was always on the other side of it. I was on the phone with the customer, with our insured, setting up their claim. And so as a road person, you're doing both. You're setting up their claim, and then I had 2 days a week where I would go out on the road and do the appraisals for vehicles and the property damage claims. So I have one story of a body shop and one of a burnt combine. And so I go into a small town, and I go into the shop, and I asked for the owner, and I said, meet him. And I said, oh, I'm Janine, and I'm here to, we've talked on the phone, I'm here to do the estimates for the day. And, first estimates are back to back, half an hour, and I had 6 of them. And so I said, they're coming in an hour. And he's old hat at this, been doing it for years, owned the body shop since its inception 30 years ago. And he's like, oh, well, I remember talking to you as like a clerk, and then as a junior adjuster, and now you're an appraiser. Wow, what do you know about appraising? Like, how can you do this job? And so it's not like, how we would call it telephone tough guy. You're not looking at somebody. We're like in this, and I'm okay, well, I am going to do the job. And so for me, I had a moment of, oh, wow, can I do this? Can I deal with these kind of personalities and actually do the job? And so I listened, and that's where my empathetic nature came in. I was like, okay, I can understand he's a bit stressed, thinking, what do I know about this? There was only two other women that had been road adjusters in our territory, and not many within the company back then. And so, I wasn't the first woman out there. I give kudos to a lady named Cindy and Chandra that had done that before me. And so I just said, you know what, I've gotten the training. I'm really excited to be here. But what I need from you is I am going to learn from you. Like, I need to pick your brain, and I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to try not to be a bother, but I need to learn from you. So we're going to work together to help your customer, our insured, and we're going to get the work done. And when I did that, I spun it so that I was able to say to him, I can't do this on my own. I need you and your expertise. It was like a light bulb went on for him. And, you know, it took a little bit to turn him to be, for me, for him to champion me. I will say to this day, like I've run into him in Regina, him and his wife, when they come down and text and say, let's meet for a coffee. So you know that like within 6 months and me going once a week, every week, sure he found, you know, an error here or there. I think by the time I left Regina, or that road job and went to our supervisor role, he was very sad. So this was 7 or 8 years later, and he said, you were one of our best appraisers. And I did not even have my journeyman. And it wasn't because I gave him everything he wanted on the estimate. It was everything the customer needed for their car. But it wasn't everything that he wanted, but he was like, you're fair and you listen. And he's like, and you reply back right away, right? Like you make sure there's a real relationship and rapport there. So that is one example of just being like, hey, I have to like lean into just being really honest and saying, hey, yeah, I'm new at this. This is the training I've received, and I'm going to need you as a partner. And so the other side is that is first property claim I went out to on the road by myself, burnt combine, and I drive out into the field because that's what you did, and met the farmer. And I love farmers. Like who doesn't? They feed us, for goodness sakes. My sister's married to a farmer. I just love I was a city girl through and through, and I love learning about, you know, what makes our food and what they do. And so always had a fascination with like farming. And so I remember driving out and getting out, and he, oh man, such a sweet man though, but he was very much like, where's the male adjuster? Like who are you? And I said, I think it actually went, hey, I'm Janine and whatever. And he was like, oh, but where's the male adjuster? You can't possibly do this job. Women don't know how to do this. And that is exactly what he said. And of course, so again, this is, yeah, I'm going to think it's more like 17-ish years ago. I was like, okay, I'd already dealt with, you know, had this experience with the auto body owner. And I thought, well, I'm just going to be honest. And I said, so this is the training I have on this. I'm here to help you. I'm not going to tell you I know everything, but guess what? I know you do. You know your combine. You have the expertise. You are the farmer. I'm going to look to you. And guess what? Even though this has been a terrible loss for you, we are going to work together, and you are going to get a new combine, and we're going to make it as expeditious as we can. I don't want to hold anything up for you. So if I don't know something, I'm going to write it down, and then I'm going to get the information, and I'm going to get back to you, because as a customer, that's how I would want to be treated. And he was like, okay, like, right. And then was like, I don't know. And by the end, he did end up, like, once we got through and settled his claim, he came in at that. I had brought his check back for the combine to our office because he wanted to actually have it in his hand. So he brought donuts into our office and actually wanted to talk with my supervisor, supervising adjuster, and just tell him that, you know, tell him the story about how hard he was on me at first, and how, you know, the claim turned around within, I think we had everything done within a month. And he was like, wow, that's never happened before. So that was just really like, just wow. I was like, okay, I knew I was going to come across some pushback about me being a female in what was a male's world, I guess, back then, or male type roles. And from then on, like, I feel like those interactions really formed who I was, and really helped me to become even more empathetic and learn what skills I could use in those kind of situations that made me feel like I was less than, when I knew I could do the job. I just might not have all the answers. I would find them, right? And my last example is coming into this role. As I said in the part one, I'd always been in claims in some form, with the exception of moving over into the auto fund as a people leader of our call center. And so that was my crux, and my happy place was people leading in the auto fund. So even though I didn't know the product, like I knew claims, I knew people. So that was comfortable for me. When I left people leading and I left claims to come into corporate business development, I was like, this is new. And how am I going to prove my worth to people? So that's when you talk about imposter syndrome. Being in a meeting, I can think, a year into my role with one of our largest partners, an in-person meeting with my VP beside me and two of these folks, and going, oh, wow, do I know how to answer that question? And just saying, you know what, I've never had that question before. And I am going to look into that and get back to you. And so much respect. The other two people were women from this other partner, from the partner's office. And my VP afterwards was like, that was well done. He's like, I didn't know the answer to that either. And he said, you just picked up on it. You didn't sound flustered. You just said, I don't know the answer. I'm going to find that out for you. And the most important thing is just being honest. And so when I'm in those situations, I'll tell you, you ask for tools or skills. I make sure that I know that this sounds crazy, maybe, that I'm breathing. So it's like, it's not that so people can see it, but inside that breathing that tells me, okay, deep breath, you're fine. And then I recite my gratitude. I'm like, okay, you're in this role for a reason. And so I would have done that. I don't remember doing it in my head with the farmer and the auto body shop, but I do remember doing it in that boardroom with our partners. And so maybe I did that back then without really understanding. I've really taken into intentional breathing, because when you're sitting with somebody who, their lead of a billion-dollar business, or right, like anybody, whether it's that or you're insured who's just lost a car in a total loss, or their house, doesn't matter who it is, you want them to feel that you're there with them and you haven't tuned out. And for me, what that means is that breathing and remembering what I'm grateful for, and that I can do the job, right? I can do it just as good as anybody else.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely hard to, I think there's only two ways. And again, it comes back down to that self-belief and that self-advocacy, is that you can find a million reasons to, believe, what someone else has said, or someone else's opinion, or what have you. Or you can say that's coming from, or you can completely separate yourself from those two things, right? And it takes a lot of strength to do that. And, I think even with people that you're close to around the table, whether they're other leaders or other partners, and I think it takes a lot of, I think, courage, but also intelligence to step back and say, no, you know what, I'm gonna, you don't have to say anything, but in your brain, I'm gonna choose the right thought path here. I'm not gonna allow this to enter my world, and that's okay. Right. And I love how, like, you also, like, I think you obviously, you're definitely a people person, and I think that shines through everything that you're saying. But I think one thing that's interesting is that you're very, like, your approach when you're talking about these things about the other person or that situation, it just goes, you have so much empathy, right? For, and being able to put yourself into other people's perspectives is also super key in like the talking yourself down, right? And saying, oh, you know what, this is, and again, it's not excuses. Some people can see that as excuses, but really being able to morph in to say, well, wait a sec, this person's carrying the world on their shoulders, right? This person comes from a different generation. This person, whatever, this is their perspective. And it doesn't mean it's right. It just means that, having that 360 perspective and understanding, empathy, what have you, I think helps with getting through those moments, right? So
thank you. I appreciate that. And I think one of you ladies wants to share something about imposter syndrome and how you reacted. Maybe I think I heard something.
And how you talked yourself through it. I think again that's a key here, is how can we help others to know, realization, and having that oh poop moment to go, oh my God, can I do this? And okay, yes, I can do this, but how do I bring myself back to the present? How do I bring myself back to me? How do I bring myself back to really control the situation?
For sure. And I think imposter syndrome is different for everybody. Like it just depends.
Absolutely.
But for me, I'm a high achiever perfectionist. So me not knowing something or me not being an expert in everything is extremely difficult. So recently this week, Diane was there with me and we had some tough meetings and I didn't know how to do something, or I felt like, oh, this is something I should know. I don't belong here. People are going to find me out. And that's the key tenet, by the way, of imposter syndrome. People are going to find out I'm a fraud and I don't belong here. So I'm going through this, like during the meeting, I am spiraling. I call it the anxiety demon, who's like, you don't belong here. Just quit while you're ahead. Just go back to school, study something else, and I'm like messaging Diane, and Diane and I are both going through that downward spiral together, by the way. And then the next day I was like, I think that was like some personality traits of mine I'm trying to work on, the perfectionism and the overachiever and the people pleaser. So I'm like, no, I don't know how to do that. That's okay. I have ChatGPT who can coach me through it. I've got tools. I have YouTube. I have friends in the industry who can coach me through it. I don't need to know everything. I don't have to be an expert in everything. It's an unreasonable ask. And then maybe do some deep breathing, maybe do some gratitude, like maybe be kinder to yourself and use some positive words every day of what you are capable of. And just remember that you're here for a reason. And that one negative thing cannot rewrite your entire history of where you are in your career. So yeah, it was a 24-hour downward spiral that I talked myself out of pretty quickly, but it's hard being in the industry and being a leader for 10 years that you still experience those moments, because you think surely by now it shouldn't happen, but it's going to continue to happen, and it's just a matter of that self-talk, that inner voice, and coaching. You have to coach it.
Yes.
It
I'm
doesn't
going to add to that too, because
yeah.
one thing that you said, like, it's easy to spiral, right? The negative thoughts are the easiest ones to get in. It's actually really hard to block those and get the positive ones in. And we probably didn't help each other because we were both feeling it. So we were just like, me too. I should just, like, I'm horrible. Why am I here? Like we kind of kept adding, but we had each other,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's a positive. I've said it before, like this industry, and I think a lot, they're very relationship heavy, and just having those people that you can reach out to when you are struggling and share that with, and safe space is super important.
Yeah. Well, and I think listening to your story, that's what I was thinking is you guys had each other. Even though you said, you were both having those same feelings, you still had each other because you still had those same feelings. So you could still relate to the situation. So you could be, empathetic to each other as much as you probably maybe spiraled a little bit together, but you caught each other in the same moment, same recognition, which I think is key, which I think, we should also touch on is, Janine, what have you done through your career pathing from a mentorship and or champion of others and helping them that way?
Great segue. You're good at this. Look at her. Wink, wink. I just want to say I send you guys, because being the empath I am, I just feel like you need a big hug. And so I'm sending you like the biggest hug right now. And you are uber valued, and you are where you need to be, and you guys rock. So if I can ever help, if you need a Janine voice on the other end of the phone, a text, anything, you just reach out, please. And I'm so proud of you for working your way through it. You worked your way through it in your own way. You're not like me. We're not like each other we are in a lot of ways, but we all work through different, right? And so I'm so proud of you guys, because it's hard. So, I would say my most shining moments, have been when, and I don't want to sound like I'm against males or other genders. I just am very much when a woman comes to me and is like, can you help me? I don't know what to do. I'm in this situation. As I said to you guys before, with our leadership culture, I was asked to be on our leadership team early on to help our company shift through leadership culture development. And so, wow, did I learn a lot there. And just that whole, I think, that self-leadership piece really, really stuck with me and means a lot to me. And so being the vocal person I am and not shy, I've had folks reach out to me from, when they were sitting in a class with me, facilitating. And one that really strikes me is a gal that I was leading in our call center. She asked me pointedly, how do you see me? I want to move up into different roles. And I just give me some examples of what I need to do. And, how do you see me? Just tell me how you see me. And I was like, okay, I'm an empath. I'm kind. I need to be able to deliver this in a certain way. Because she is very different than I am, and very like, things are black and white, and I will tell you that way. And I will talk straight, but not responsibly. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna share with you because you've asked me to. I'm gonna give you this feedback. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm basically just laying everything out on the table for you, just how I feel. Now, what I say and what I see in you doesn't mean that somebody else won't see it, right? But if you want to move up, you have these skills. I can see it in you. You are a people leader already. You've started with the self-leadership. You are very confident. There's some pieces of you that I think are a bit insecure, and this is what I would do. And so we actually worked together on a plan of how she could grow into who she wanted to be without losing who she was already. And just within our culture, within the team that she was on, she was already a supervisor. And so even when I left that role, we still kept in contact. She would come to me. I gave her feedback all of the time. I acknowledged, because she grew like it was like she was a rose bloom that was just, it was like, give me some water and sunshine, and she just bloomed like amazingly. I was like, oh,
I love it.
it just made me feel so good, because I wanted her to be like, I came from years ago where you had good people within your fold or your team, and you didn't want to move them out because they were so good. And I had that happen to me, and I didn't want that to happen. Like, I don't know if you guys remember or heard about this years ago. Somebody would phone and say, hey, how's Janine as a team member? Well, you don't really want her, right? Because she's really friendly, or whatever whatever was said, just so that you could keep people on your team. I did not want to do that. I wanted to like lift people up and go, hey, sure, I'll miss you on the team, but I want you to be where you need to shine, and shine that light of yours. And so for her, she actually followed me over to claims. And I don't mean followed, but she told me that. And then she's still in claims, and she is shining her light. She is doing an amazing job. She has gotten so many acknowledgments just because she's opened up into her own leadership style. It's maybe it's a bit of my style, but it's her. She's made it her own. And really all I did was she came to me, asked a question, I offered, and she took me up on like that back and forth, and making time for one another, right? And just really listening. And I didn't try to rescue her or fix her or solution for her. I just provided some tools that I thought would help, right? And that is what I think we all do for each other. I've had males come to me and ask the same thing. I want to be here. How do I get there? I see your skills in leadership. I see how much you love people and leading teams. And if you can be a leader the way you are, and I took this as a compliment, the way you are, and you're not like XYZ leader in our company, who is, Miss or Mr. VP, or, executive VP. How can I be like you, but my own self? And so again, just those tools, those skills, start doing a little bit of reading, and what is on your board, on your storyboard, what is it that you want to achieve, and how do you want to get there? And let's have conversations. And to this day, I'll have people that I'm working on projects with throughout the company. I've had a person in a senior leadership role that's a female come to me and go, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to have this conversation. Can you help me? She still comes back to me and says, I think about you so often. And that, for me, I don't need the acknowledgements out. I don't need that. What I need to know is that if people who reach out to me, if I can provide that support to them and they flourish and they shine and they move on to wherever they want to be, that is what I want to leave. I want to leave this company and I want to leave this world as that person that helped and not like held you down, because that is not what I'm here for. And I've never been that way. And I don't intend to ever go that way. I want to help and move you out. I want you to bloom where you're planted. Isn't that a saying? Bloom where
Yes.
you're planted.
I think it's so, I think those leaders, I think back to when you're just talking is like and I think people just leaders don't realize actually how much influence, good or bad, or, that they have on other people, right? I think back to my old boss, and I can hear her voice when I was 20 years old. And I can hear her voice in the back of my head anytime like something's pretty challenging. It's like she's like right there, and she's like, I know exactly what she says, how she's going to say it, and you never forget that, right? It's 40 and 21 years, and if she was listening, maybe I'll send it to her. If she was listening, she would know that, wow, I had no idea that spending a fraction of my time with Jen would have that much impact, right? So
I think it's also big though for the young people coming into the industry to know to do that, to ask the questions, to seek out the mentorship, and to, how invaluable that is.
Yeah.
It is. It's your time, it's your voice, right? One thing, I don't know if I probably said this with you guys at some point, but I am a champion of using your voice. And so again, it's respectfully and responsibly, but use your voice. It's like going out to vote. There was the saying that you couldn't complain if you didn't vote. Well, if you don't use your voice, you aren't able to make the impact that you can actually shine. Maybe you have an idea that nobody else has thought about. You don't have to be the president of the company to make all the best decisions. In fact, our president says you guys have the best decisions because you're either boots on the ground, or you're working in strategy, or you're working in ops. Maybe you're not right in front of our brokers or our customers, but you are hearing, you're the pulse. And so that is something. And our team out here, I'm pointing out here, but they are very much like, wow, you are just, because I am a different type of a leader. And they're like, you always say, use your voice, Janine. So we're doing that. And it makes me proud. That is what we need to do.
Well, that's time, everybody. So thank you so much for being on our 2-part podcast episode, Janine. We're so happy that you came on and taught us some pretty fantastic mentorship lessons. Yes.
Ladies.
I just want to say,
Cheers.
Because the next step for risk takers is to do some virtual events. Maybe we can have a virtual event, Janine, where you're just coaching people. They'll ask you questions, and you can be like one of our leadership coaches, especially for up and coming women leaders in the industry who could use that guidance and could really step into their true, authentic leadership styles. So for sure, let's everybody listening, give us a thumbs up or a like or a comment if that is something you want to see in the future. Please like and subscribe and share. The more subscribers we get on YouTube, the bigger our audience and the more cool things we can do, whether live or virtual events, to really help bring women into the spotlight in the insurance industry. So thanks again. And I can't wait till we see you again, Janine.
Big hugs back, my friend. Big hugs back.
Thank you for asking me to be on with you guys. I love you all so much, and keep doing what you're doing. We are here to help one another. Let's lift everybody up to their greatness.
100%.
You're amazing.
Love it.
Aww.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much, you guys.